Thank you for coming back to CFSO. I'm Anna Victoria Wong, the Executive Director of Community Family Services of Ontario. In the previous two videos, we covered the rationale of the Hong Kong Pathway by IRCC and the rationale for conducting a survey regarding IRCC's Hong Kong Pathway. I am doing this final one to basically conclude our recommendations for the Hong Kong Pathway policy based on user findings and frontline experience. All of these are included in our latest published report, Hong Kong Pathway User Findings and Recommendations. So unfunded and with no resources from IRCC, we have been providing to the needs of these newcomers via the Hong Kong Pathway, whether they are documented with us or not documented with us, with the services and activities that they need. Registered with as members are over 530 individuals and counting. And this has only been in operations for a few months. And for a total of close to 1,000 names within a year, we are able to serve over 200 people with employment services, over 150 people with peer support groups led by social workers for mental health improvement, and close to 1,000 of them received psychosocial services, including psychoeducation, mental health wellness training, and any social support groups. And close to 100 of them received language training. All of these are in sync with the findings reported by our users in terms of what the top services their needs are. And concluding based on our frontline experience and user feedback, what we have as recommendations for IRCC are in 6 major categories. The first one has to do with empowerment. As an economic class immigration population, these people are destined to come to Canada to become PR via studying and working, or with previous study to start working already. So without empowerment of employment-related services like career counseling, without empowerment of psychotherapy-related services to rebuild their self-esteem and social network and rehab their mental health from their recent and fresh trauma, without the language training to accustom them to the local community, and without the legal knowledge and any settlement need fulfillment to make them grounded in the local community. Basically, by addressing all of these primary needs, we are empowering these individuals to become financially independent and socially and emotionally independent. It is with skills. It is through empowerment, understanding, expanding and strengthening a social network, internally rehabbing the mental health state, and with the right communication skills and systemic knowledge will these candidates succeed in being contributing Canadians where the RCC policy was designed for. And with a lot of these individuals reporting to be in major provinces, like over 60% to be Ontario, and a quarter of them to be BC, and 10% of them to Alberta, it makes a lot of sense for our feds to be working with provinces to provide a better network to seamlessly integrate these people into the local societies and local employment networks and sectors. The second category of recommendation that we have for this policy is to increase Canadian competitiveness. This whole policy has one of the mandates to help fill labor shortage and talent shortage in Canada, but it is missing out on the younger talents without the university degree or the post-secondary graduation, or without enough savings fresh after graduation to be coming to Canada. It's also missing out on the post 34 years old younger professionals or more mature professionals who have accumulated much wealth and pension based on their years of experience and a lot of knowledge, network, and professional intelligence that we're missing. So by increasing our competitiveness, we are able to attract these talents. And one of the barriers in terms of hampering our Canadian competitiveness has to do with licensure conversion. as much as we have ECA processes, we have bridging pathways for internationally trained professionals, much needed talents are still short in Canada, being lawyers, nurses, MDs, and ECEs, especially when we're opening up the $10 daycare in most of the provinces right now. We are attracting these talents, but blocking them from being able to practice their own profession in Canada. Versus also another Commonwealth country, the UK, they are not only able to just go there with a BNO, British National Overseas Hong Kong passport, they're also able to convert their driver's license, their medical doctor's license, their nursing license, their accounting license, engineering, and lawyer's license, just like that. For us, we have the pathway, we have the mechanisms, but it's taking years to get there. Long enough for a registered nurse with 20 years of experience to redo the whole entire nursing degree as well as the professional placement. That's a whole lot of talents wasted, even if they are willing to come to Canada to contribute that way and wait that long and hold out that long working other menial jobs using their own savings. At that point, will they still have the energy and patience to go back into the trade? Another part to do with Canadian competitiveness, it's how do we attract these talents, much of whom were actively involved in the social movement, are at safety risk right now. These include the healthcare professionals, educators, researchers, journalists, and legal professions. There is indeed a human rights fighter pathway, but that requires UNHCR certification. And for situations like that, it is almost impractical, if impossible, for them to get such certification. And therefore, if they can provide enough proof, are we able to provide a more logical and user-friendly pathway to be able to attract these talents without making them go through safety risks to obtain UNHCR? Number 3 grouping of the recommendations have to do with the policy itself. With IRCC being so strapped with labor time in the past year or two, total backlog even for Canadians and diplomats to renew their passports, it makes a lot of sense for us to extend the pathway, not only for users to accumulate time to make themselves eligible from non-eligible to eligible, but it also makes a lot of sense for us to give our staff the time. The recruitment, development, and the training up, all that curve takes time. For us to be able to extend the deadline, it actually is a win-win situation, with the final deadline of the policy being 2026, August 31st. It makes a lot of sense for us to just give a year or two in between to fulfill all PR requirements. So a deadline in 2024 won't be an illogical decision. Also, over onto dates again, those stuck between two doors, especially the 2016 and 2017 graduates who are eligible for open work permit but not eligible for PR application because of their age, of their graduation date. It makes a lot of sense, especially when the policy was announced early 2021 with a cutoff of 5-year fresh graduation date. It makes a lot of sense for that graduation cutoff to be applicable for everyone instead of everyone having their individual deadline. Why not make 2016 a date, pick a date, January 1st, 2016, to be the graduation cutoff date for all applicants, just to be fair. It could be just a simple calculation error at first. It could be the fact that IRCC believes these people are able to tap into other pathways, but other pathways also have other people who are in need of those spots as well. So why not make it easier for everyone by making, let's say, 2016 Jan 1st the general cutoff date? Also, over to the part of age groups not being comprehensively served. For youth under 20, it's totally not served under this policy. And I understand that there's a liability issue, especially for human trafficking and guardianship above all of that. But one of the ways to help would be, for these youth who are underage, under 20, but they have adult age siblings. Let's say they have a bigger brother or an elder sister who is eligible for Hong Kong Pathway. Will the policy allow these underage siblings to be coming with their aged siblings as dependents so that they can also benefit from this pathway? After all, they're not that many years behind. We're only talking about teenagers. So with 1 or 2 years of schooling, they are able to start contributing to our economy as well. If we are able to open access to 16-year-old plus to get into local sponsorship into Canada, just like the private sponsorship scheme via Stream A or Stream B, I think that would also be very beneficial to local economy, at the same time helping youth who were actively involved in the social movement who are at risk in terms of safety. The grouping number 5, or recommendation number 5 we have, has to do with a labor shortage in trade vacancies. So in most provinces, especially Ontario, the trades, tooling, agriculture, frontline service roles are not being filled fast enough. And as much as IRCC is opening pathway one after another, these jobs are still not filled fast enough. And certainly we can give birth to and develop people fast enough locally. Why not create a stream for trades or vocational training individuals? Instead of academic graduates, how about we import some vocational graduates as well, which is 1 year post-secondary, right? Let them finish high school. There's 1 year of vocational training or 1.5 years of vocational training. And if they are also eligible for some sort of a pathway to come over, not only will we be able to help more Hong Kongers, we're also able to address the labor shortage of most provinces as well. The last point has to do with reducing technical barriers. One of the technical barriers mentioned has to do with the police certificate. For those who have been in conflict with the law during the social movement because of human rights related protests during the year of 2014 or 2019, they would have either been arrested and not charged or convicted or even jailed for such quote-unquote crimes. And many times those the process of investigation and conviction are very unlike the standard practices in Commonwealth countries or known to Canada. A lot of them would not have been deemed to have violated the law in the eyes of Canadian law. So instead of relying heavily on the certificate of no criminal record, aka the CNCC, why not have us rely more on translated police documents and court documents? Asking them for a CNCC is a logical decision to ensure their safety of our people and to safeguard the interests of Canada. But it also puts these applicants at risk if the crimes quote unquote in question have to do with so-called the national security law back in their homeland. So there's a fine balance for us to tread. Some of them would opt to fly to another country before they apply, so that even if they are to get the CNCC, they won't need to actually physically attend a police station in Hong Kong. Also, it used to be the practice that the police would issue another letter saying this person is not free from criminal convictions because there was a history of such and such and such. But after national security law became in effect, it seems like there is a trend, or it is now a pretty solid evidence that the Hong Kong police force is not issuing such letter at all. So there would be this barrier or a deliverable being not able to be fulfilled in that candidate's application. So that becomes a technical barrier in the process of application. IRCC can actually look into ways to solve that. Another technical barrier has to do with a very limited availability of eligible translators. For IRCC, the translations of the documents, police documents, court documents, need to be done by an ATIO certified translator. There are only very few, a handful of them that are Chinese English translators in ATIO. And it was known, not verified, that many of these translators are related to a particular totalitarian regime. If we were just speaking from an availability standpoint, instead of having candidates wait months before they can get one police document translated, and with the background of the translator unknown, why not open up the eligibility to other translation bodies? The court translators, they have CILISATs and ILSATs. Those are pretty reputable translation bodies as well that local courts actually use, medical system also use. So it may be beneficial for both sides if we were to expand such eligibility. Lastly, the restrictions on work permits seem to be arbitrary, at least to the understanding of the users. So especially the one category that says no training, no professional training, no development, no going to school, right? As much as a work permit is not supposed to empower someone to go to school, there are many applicants or work permit holders that are here that are in need to convert their license, such as if they're short a few courses to get their psychotherapist or nursing or social work or HR or legal or medical nursing professions to be relicensed. That restriction in essence restricts their ability to be licensed in Canada before they become PR. So during all that wait to become PR, they are stuck with working menial jobs and jobs that are unrelated to their very valuable training, whereas if it was made available, they would be contributing to Canadian economy in jobs that are very in demand that we totally need right now, such as healthcare. So that one in particular. And the second one has to do with no employment and social services, health services, and education services. Some believe that this has something to do with the medical exam. In fact, most candidates who come through the pathway, if not all of them, actually have to go through medical exam. So it is unknown as to why these restrictions would actually appear on the permit in the first place. Another technical barrier has to do with interpretation of the law. So with IRCC section 2161 sub 1b, 216 sub 1 sub b, and 22 sub 2, those are two conflicting provisions. One says if you're applying for a study permit, but if you have the intentions to stay after you complete your studies, you are denied the study permit. So that applies to Stream A, the academic pathway. However, there is another section that is 22 sub 2, the dual intent, which provides for the fact that you're applying for a study permit but have intention to stay. You're still allowed the study permit because you're allowed to have dual intent of doing so. So some permit Stream A aspirers, applying for the study permit to study in Canada, are unable to get the study permit because the officer applied to 16(1)(b) instead of 22 sub 2. Obviously, people coming through the pathway would have dual intent. So why not standardize the application of the dual intent interpretation for these pathway users? And to make sure they know that these are pathway users, there just to be one question of drop down or a matter of checking a box. We're hoping these consolidated arguments based on frontline interactions with clients and on the ground feeling questions who are aspiring to apply for or already going through the application process of or have successfully applied for through the pathway, our experience are able to provide valuable insights to IRCC to inform such policy improvements and also help influencers of the policy understand the emergent and ongoing challenges and any opportunities that the Canadian sector and the policymakers can provide to help us grow our economy, fill our job vacancies, as well as help import valuable talents from other parts of the world where it is deemed unsafe for them. Thank you.